Welcome to Momversations. I'm Reagan Barnes, and I will be your hostess. Um, it looks like my frame changed, and I can see more that I meant to show of the room that I'm in. So I'll just explain. I'm at the library, and they have this special room where you can play instruments, like you see the drum set and then the guitar here. But it's a really nice room. The internet here at the library is much more reliable than at my house. And they have a good microphone for the podcast. So joining us today is Emily, and she's joining us from home. And we are just so grateful for her. She signed right up as soon as she heard about the podcast. And I think it's awesome to have her here with us. So Emily, I will give you just a minute to tell us about your mothering situation right now. What's your logistics of how many kids, that kind of
Yeah.
thing?
So I have three kids. I have two girls and then a boy. My oldest is 5 right now. My middle child is 3, turning 4 in about 2 weeks. So we have a birthday coming up for her. And then my youngest is 16 months old. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. My oldest is in kindergarten. So she's doing that, loving that. And I love having her in kindergarten. It's really good to have her make friends, learn new things, whatnot. And then my middle child also goes to preschool. So just the 2 days a week for the 3 to 4-year-olds. And yeah, it's fun. And then I get to be with my little guy. So
Yeah. And that 16-month-old age is just so fun when they're just exploring and discovering and getting excited, and that's exciting. That's fun.
yes.
All right. And when you signed up, you mentioned that sometimes you feel a little frustrated or even angry about what mom life looks like, and that it wasn't necessarily what you thought you signed up for.
Yes. No.
And that you're in the midst of working with that. You've recognized where your mindset started, and now you are giving yourself space to work through that and kind of transform those whatever the expectations were into now reality. And
Yes.
and so I'm excited to hear a little bit about how that process has been going for you. I know you also mentioned that you do things like gardening.
Yeah.
And right now we're in wintertime. Whoever's listening to this, I don't know what season of the year it'll be for you when you're listening, but hopefully, as you are, does that mean you get a break from gardening right now?
Right. Yeah, definitely a break. I mean, I'm trying to prepare for the upcoming gardening season. Unfortunately, my son was still young enough this last summer that I was constantly nursing, constantly taking care of him. You know how that goes. And I just didn't have the energy to maintain a garden this past summer. So that was a real bummer. And that's like you mentioned, that's just a reality of life, right? That's a frustration that,
Some of the sacrifices
yes, the
that are,
sacrifice that comes with it. So I'm trying to prepare my mind to right now to like get, seeds going in March, hopefully, so that I have a good summer crop this year, because most often I've always gone to the plant store, that I don't remember what they're called right now. And I just usually buy the starts that they've already started. And they're somewhat more expensive. It's fine to do, but I'd rather just try my own. So
fun, yeah. And that is, I think, a next level up, right? It's like you're adding that to your gardening capabilities.
yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
And I really liked this little sentence you included in your little bio when you signed up. You said, "I am finding joy in simple, meaningful moments." And I think that that's part of the mindset switch that you're probably working through. And I think it's a wonderful thing for moms to realize is sometimes we don't have control over the situation, but we can have control over how we think about it.
Yes.
And so joy in the simple, meaningful moments. let's talk a little bit about what some of your examples of that might be. Like as you tell us a little bit about what a day in your life looks like. And
Yeah.
I'm sure there's various simple moments each day because motherhood is a lot of
Yeah.
repetition.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
so
So
what are some examples there of,
yeah, so I mean, we have our, the morning rush, getting to breakfast, school, dressed, all of that we've got for sure on a daily basis. And my husband helps out with that, and it's wonderful and it's so nice. And then we've got the afternoon, breakfast, nap times, and depending on the day of the week, picking up from preschool and so what have you, and then soon comes quick on the clock, time to get ready and think about dinner, and getting that ready and cooking for it. And all of that is stressful, and just trying to keep the house clean and maintained and organized. And so some things that I've been learning through research that I've done about how to be a better mom. And one of the things that I really enjoyed was one of them was like, um, she said that as you're going about your day and you're cleaning, if you shouldn't be so busy with all that stuff that if your child asks you, hey mom, can you play with me? Hey mom, can you read me a book? That you should be able to stop and do those things. And there have been, I'm guilty of it, where there have been times where, I'm like, oh no, right now I'm too busy, I can't, and I have been really working on trying to say, you know what, yes, I will play with you for 5 minutes. I can do that.
I
And
love that.
so, and then just really trying to be present in the moment, not have my phone, don't listen to podcasts, not listening to audiobooks, but just really be with them and know that this moment is fleeting, as we all know that it goes by so fast. So just those little moments and moments before bedtime, reading to my kids and just snuggling with them and just trying to laugh with them because they laugh so much more than we do.
Yeah,
And so
that's true.
so just trying to just be present, I think, during my day.
Yeah. Even though there's so many distractions and things,
Mhm.
trying to pull our attention in one
Yeah.
direction or the other. And
Yes.
that sounds like a very mindful, conscientious effort, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That you're willing to put in, especially towards the child's needs,
Mhm.
the child expressing, hey, I want to play, I want to snuggle,
Mhm.
I want to read
Yeah.
books, whatever it is, and you being willing to make the sacrifice again.
Yes. Yes.
I like to think of sacrifice kind of as an investment, really.
Mm.
Like sacrifice sometimes gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
It feels like you're just giving something up. But
Right.
in my brain, it helps to realize that, yeah, you are giving something up, but it's going to come back to you later with
Mhm.
dividends, like
Yeah.
an investment would. And I think that has helped my mindset too, that yeah, I might have to stop whatever I'm doing. Motherhood does sometimes feel like a series of interruptions, right?
Yeah. It does.
But going from that interruption to realizing actually this is what I'm meant to do, is
Mhm.
fill the
Right.
bucket of this little
Yep.
child, right?
Yes.
And ultimately it does pay off. Those buckets being filled
Yes. Yes. Yes.
are worth it. So I like to hear that you've done research about motherhood. I think that that's a cool mindset thing of realizing there's more to it than just
Mhm.
how to clean the house, right?
Yes.
There's so much else there that motherhood entails, than like if you were to go to the mall and stop people and say, what does a mom do? I think you would just get some pretty basic answers of like, well, she drives me around, like she's my chauffeur,
Yeah.
or she
Right.
makes dinner or whatever.
Right.
And because it gets kind of um, put in that little box, we don't always realize the ramifications that come on a broader scale
Yeah.
when we dig in deep and say, oh,
Yeah.
wait a minute, there's there's actually some pretty major things that she's doing. Um,
Mhm.
so and that's what we don't want to overwhelm ourselves. Sometimes that's like swinging the pendulum the wrong direction.
Of course, yes,
But
yeah,
acknowledging that
yeah,
motherhood is more than a list of household chores has
yeah,
actually been very inspiring for me.
yeah, yes, definitely,
So,
yes.
so I'm curious about how you navigate challenges in your relationship with your spouse. Um, how, because I really do think that can um, have major effects on our motherhood, is how things are going in an area that we don't always recognize influences our motherhood. But sometimes things with the spouse really do have those ripple effects.
Yes, they certainly do, and I have seen that over time. My husband has always been great, and however, I feel like our relationship has gotten so much better over the years. I have grown. I know I have matured through just life, right? Like we all just naturally grow. We all just naturally, I feel like we are all good human beings, you know? And so we're just all naturally just going to get better through life experiences, whatever life throws at us. So there's that, but also owning my mistakes, I feel like, and owning my part in it has been a big thing for me. And because oftentimes it's easy to blame other people,
Right,
blame the
point
spouse,
fingers, point
blame
fingers.
even our kids, you know,
Mhm.
and even blame how we were raised ourselves, you know? And so to just take ownership over what you're doing, what is going on, is a big thing. And then another thing that I really think to myself is that my husband is not my enemy, that we are on the same team here, you know?
Yeah,
And that even though he was raised quite differently than I was in disciplining, and we've had a lot of discussions, and I wouldn't say that they're all pleasant, and definitely not, but we've been able to come to, I think, a good balance in that now. You know, I he is more like strict with them, and I was kind of like, oh, you know, like let them learn on their own kind of a thing. And but I realized the value in what he is teaching and how he disciplines. And so I've really grown to take from him, but also I don't know, it's funny because like I have guilty of like yelling at my kids, you know?
right.
But then my husband will come home and he'll kind of do the same thing. And I'm like, no, you can't do that.
Even though I did, I can't
Exactly.
let you make the same mistake.
So I have to kind of take a step back and realize like he is a parent just as much as I am. He needs to learn from these mistakes as well. And I also don't want to get in the way of that relationship with his kids, you know?
Yeah,
So
you want to build that relationship and let the kids respect him for who he is instead of
yes.
making them think, wait, why does mom correct him? Like
Yes. Yes.
at least in front of them.
Right.
And I do think, like we were saying, we are progressing little by
Yeah.
little, and it can be helpful to have those discussions
Uh-huh.
about those things. And my husband, I appreciate him at one point, I was talking through some of our differences, and he said, you know what, though, I think we make a good team.
Mhm.
In our case, I'm tend to be the justice person and he tends to be the mercy person.
Yeah.
And really our kids do need both, right? And
Yes.
so it isn't just that I have to let mercy win out and he
Yeah.
or the other way around, that he has to let justice win out.
I like
But
that.
that
I
together
like
we
that.
can find some balance and help our kids find some balance. And
Mhm.
I do think that there's value in recognizing that differences doesn't mean somebody's wrong,
Right.
um,
Yes.
and that we can let it work to our benefit to have those
Yes.
differences.
Yes. And appreciating the differences because I see my kids, you know, and the way that they act and the way they behave. And I credit that a lot to my husband, you
Yeah.
know? And so I'm so grateful for that, you know? So
Because you love him and So
Yeah.
seeing your kids adopt some of those lovable
Yes.
characteristics,
Exactly.
it can be very
Exactly.
bonding.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, I like that it's a team effort for sure. You know, I'm even though I'm on the front lines most of the time, I feel like that he is also there with me by my side. So I'm truly blessed to have that and to have him as my companion. So yes.
Awesome. That's great. Do you have any like aha moments where you discovered something about yourself because of your mothering experiences?
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, yes, I definitely do. I probably have a couple, and one of them is I really don't like to play pretend or play these games. And because
At
I
least
would
not
just,
at the age you are now. You
yeah, exactly,
possibly, if you can remember being 4 years old
exactly.
in my house.
And that has helped me because I would either like, that bringing it back to the beginning, where connecting with them, being present with them, just I had to recognize that for myself to realize that like, wow, I really don't like playing their pretend games. I really don't like playing, those types of things. For me, I'd rather just read with them or do crafts with them and realizing the things that I do like to do and where I can connect with them that I feel comfortable with. But also, I do the things that I'm not comfortable with, but realizing that I don't like it and that it's okay, you
Yeah.
know, that I can still play with them, I can still be with them. Maybe I won't do it for as long as I would a craft with them or bake, do baked goods with them. That's also something I do enjoy. So realizing things that I do enjoy with them and things that don't do enjoy with them,
Yeah.
Anyways, I
And
don't know if that makes
taking
sense.
yourself as a whole package.
Yes. Yes. And then I think I want to add too that another aha moment was realizing how much motherhood does not actually come naturally. I feel a lot of times I mean, I know when I was pregnant with my firstborn and I was working full time, I had a coworker and they would tell me things, oh my goodness, as soon as my son opened his eyes after he was born, I just fell in love with him. And that did not happen for me. And I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so to realize that you do love your kids, but it may not be in the way that other people have connected, right?
Right.
And the other moms are feeling that love towards their kids. So I feel like even that is different, just the way that we interact with our kids, love our kids, and what we're with them. Anyways, I don't know. I just feel like yeah, mothering is not, I feel like, in my natural instincts,
Right.
Like when my kids get sick, I hate it. I really hate it. And I don't like having to take care of them, you know.
And clean up, throw up.
Yes, and clean up, throw up. Like I don't like any of that, but I have learned that it's part of it. And it's just one of those aspects of motherhood that is going to be fleeting, and I just tell myself that. So,
Yeah, I remember changing a diaper once and it had been one of those really gross, poopy everywhere
mhm.
diapers. And
Yeah.
and as I thought that through in terms of what else could I be doing right now if I
Yeah.
wasn't stuck in this motherhood thing, right?
Yes.
And like it occurred to me that there's poop everywhere,
Yeah.
right? If we were the swearing type of people,
Uh-huh.
we would say life is full of it, right?
Yep. Yes, yes.
And so even though with my baby, it was like a very literal form of poop, I am well aware, like just from other life experiences, that there is going to be crap you have to deal with, no matter
Exactly.
the circumstances. And it's not
Yeah.
always partly contained in a diaper, right? Like,
Yes.
and so I just thought, actually,
True.
in a lot of those other cases in my life when I've had to deal with other people's crap,
Mhm.
those people were not nearly as cute as my baby, right? And
And you
so
coulda just throw it away.
yeah, right. So just having to accept the fact that life might not what do they say, the grass isn't always greener
Right.
on the
Yep.
other side, and that I can just enjoy the grass that's right here in front of me
Yes. So
and
true.
yeah, find the positives
So
of
true.
those things. So
Yes.
awesome. I really liked what you mentioned about how one mom shared her experience with you, but it was different
Mm.
for you. And
Yes.
that is, I think, one of the interesting paradoxes of motherhood is universal. Like that is the
Yeah.
singular way that people come into the world is through mothers. And yet it's so unique.
Yes.
Even if I meet a woman who has the same number of kids as I do, and they're the same genders and the same ages, there is still going to be major differences in what
Mhm.
our lives look like. And I think being able to be comfortable in that
Yes.
aspect, that there's just differences and that I can learn from those people, but that doesn't mean that they're doing it right and I'm doing it wrong,
Yeah.
anything like that. Um,
Yeah.
so I
Exactly.
think that's awesome that
Yeah.
you came to that realization even right there with the first
Yeah.
baby.
I know, because it's easy to get, I think, stuck in that trap of that we're all moms, so we all do most of the same thing, right? We all do clean house, we all do cooking, we feed our kids, we do activities with them, we take to the park. But then that's just like the top layer, right? And then when you know, like you say, you get down deeper and deeper, and it's all so different. And it's fun, and I love it. And I love being able to, talk with you and learn from you as you have different experiences. And I think that's also very valuable to be able to have those connections with other moms that are different from us, because we can always like gain new insights or new ways, at looking things. So,
Yeah. And that's really one of the goals of this podcast
yes.
is being willing to just share, and not necessarily with experts who are going to tell us
Yeah,
the best
I
way
know.
or anything like
I
that,
know.
but just with one another and build. We like to call our community of moms the mom unity.
I love it.
And of course, that's a play on the word community, is putting an
Mhm.
M there at the front first. But
Yep.
what I really like too is it feels like we're unifying as moms
Yes.
when we talk about our mom unity,
Yep.
and how that just lends to our sense of strength is when we are unified, despite our differences, and even because of our differences, and all
Yes.
that we can learn because of those things.
And I think it's so important to recognize that and to have that with moms, is to empower each other. I strongly believe in empowering other moms and each other because we need it.
Yeah,
And I feel sometimes we as moms get attacked,
yeah.
and oftentimes it's our own selves,
I was gonna say, yeah, and inside our own brains.
Yes, inside our own brains,
Yeah,
and so I feel that, yeah, that is something that I definitely wanted to share, is just to be able to, believe in yourself, have compassion on yourself. And I mean, imagine if you had a friend, your neighbor called you up and they were extremely sick. They couldn't get out of bed and they needed you, to come help. And, their house, and you show up and their house was messy. There was food on the floor. The mom hadn't showered in days, like there was no dinner to be cooked that night. Like, what would you feel in that moment towards that mom, right? I would think that you would feel love and compassion and kindness. And oftentimes we don't give that same love to ourselves, like when we're in the depths of despair, we're in the dumps, we've got messes and we haven't showered, the floor hasn't been swept in days, there's piles of laundry, you know, that
yeah,
we need to have that same compassion on ourselves.
I love that. Do you feel like there's anything rewarding about being a full-time mom?
I mean, I definitely don't get a paycheck. I check the mailbox every day and it still has not come. No, but just seeing my kids grow, seeing my kids make interactions and connections with other kids, talking to other people, bringing home their creations from school, whether it's a paper filled with dots
Yeah,
that um, really isn't much, but I just feel like those are just so rewarding. And just when they do things, like they'll just hug me and just say, Mom, I love you. Like
yeah.
those are just so tender and sweet. And I love those moments so much.
You really are their favorite person, you
Yes, you
know?
are. Yes, I feel like we forget that, but yes, you definitely are their favorite person. They're excited to see you. They want to do everything with you. So yeah.
They
There's,
think you're pretty cool.
uh-huh.
And there does come a time, I have 8 kids, and the older ones have figured out that I'm not perfect and that I'm
Oh,
not
shoot.
always cool, you know.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I think that they get around to coming back around to realizing, okay, actually,
Mom
even
is,
though
yeah.
I am aware of mom's imperfections, I
Yes.
can still like her.
Yep.
And I just don't want moms to lose hope if they're in the
No.
midst of those tumultuous years when their
Yes.
kids are figuring out mom's not the rock star that I thought she was, you know?
Yep.
Um, but I think ultimately trying to keep the relationships strong the best we know how is
Yeah.
is ideal in those moments.
Yeah.
So if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, would there be any lessons you'd want to share, how to help that younger self prepare for motherhood?
Yeah, I would just say, like whatever you do now is in preparation for motherhood. So, I mean, I took cooking classes. I got into the habit of exercising and working out
Mhm.
because I wanted to keep that my whole life. So, I don't know, but it's just there's not, I feel like, one thing that you can do.
Yeah,
But I mean, it's just going to be a conglomeration of everything that you're experiencing in life, um, and that whatever you are doing now will be a preparation. I mean, I had jobs that I had that I didn't think would prepare me, but at the time they were. So
yeah. It's interesting to feel like in a way that that was a whole nother world.
yeah, right.
But then to start to see things that merge it, whether it's
Yeah,
attitudes we picked up,
yeah,
or skills that we didn't think would come into play in motherhood, but then they do,
exactly. Yeah,
kind of thing.
yep,
So,
definitely. So
all right. Well, I am so grateful that you joined us today, and I want to give you the last couple of minutes to um, have a second, to say anything that we didn't get to cover yet that you might want to make sure gets included.
Um, yeah, just, I mean, I don't know, I guess kind of maybe we kind of have touched on it, but just have grace for yourself. Be
I like
kind to
that.
yourself. Mothering is hard, it's difficult. It's probably one of the hardest things that I have personally ever encountered, and I have done hard things. I have I mean it wasn't hard per se, but I went to school at BYU Hawaii, and even though it was paradise, I had no one. I didn't
Oh,
have any family over there. I was thousands of miles away from them. I couldn't just drive on home. So I was isolated. And so I think just building a community around you, trying to find friends, whether it be your neighbor, whether it be someone that you meet at the park, someone that's in the same class as your.
yeah, reach out.
Yes, yes, please reach out. Don't try to think that you have to do this alone. And I feel like more than anything, moms want to help other moms. And if you just ask, they'll be more than happy to. My friend the other day, earlier this week, was just like, "Hey, Emily, I have an emergency appointment that I need to go to, and my husband was going to babysit, but he had a meeting that was surprise last minute, so I need somebody. Can you?" And I was more than happy to, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And right now my neighbor is taking care of my younger son,
nice.
and like she, I know, is more than happy to. So I just feel like that there are so many people around you that want to support you and to help you.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again for being our guest today. And
Yes,
we
this
are
was fun.
excited to help other moms get these same messages that you've been learning. I think it's the kind of thing we have to relearn
I
over and
know.
over, right?
Yes.
The Russians have a phrase, "Повторение мать учения," and it means repetition is the mother of learning.
Mhm.
And I think whoever made up that phrase must have been a mother, and that's why they chose the word mother, because
Exactly.
it's just
Yes.
part of motherhood is the repetition, and
Yep,
but there's so much learning to be done in the
it
midst.
is.
So So thank you for getting us going. Our first podcast with this particular theme of
Okay.
finding out what life is like for another mom. So thank you.
Yes, it's been fun. Thank you for having me.